Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
The Department of Indian Work partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Now you can call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can also schedule a free COVID-19 vaccine at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. Appointments are available for residents 16 years of age and older. Vaccines are available to certain residents of Hennepin, Ramsey, Anoka, and Dakota counties. Call the Minnesota American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986 to find out when you can get your free COVID-19 vaccination. Appointments are available April 16th through June 19th. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening with a low of 64, then sunshine and a little cooler on Saturday with a high of 86. Hazel's Northeast offers some of the most creative comfort food you'll find, located at 29th Avenue and Johnson Street in Minneapolis, minutes from 35W and from Central Avenue. Make your reservation at hazelsne2go.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakunjahade, which means distant thunder. My colonized name is Robert Pilot, and I pay taxes with that name too. We discuss national and Twin City Native American news and events. And as we all know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Call them at 651-304-9986, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Uh-oh, Wendy, better watch out. That was good, Ogama. Wendy's not with us today. She's taking a day off, a much needed day, but we got a jam-packed show here. And, of course, we always start with the news, and Ogama does a great job with getting all the news out there that you normally don't hear. And I was just talking to Winona LaDuke today, and she's just really impressed with what we do here. And she's been a guest many times, and we'll have her on more because of what's happening up in the deep north. But that's before we get any further on here, why don't we get to Ogama with the news? Welcome, Ogama.
Hi, Buju, Annie, and everybody. This is Ogama Ganua. If you weren't able to tune into yesterday's show, I was on the phone yesterday from Park Rapids, Minnesota, about a mile away from an Enbridge office, as I was up in the deep north at Camp Firelight on the banks of the Mississippi River near the headwaters in northern Minnesota. The Camp Firelight team wants everyone to know that they have plenty of snacks. So for right now, they do not need any more food donations. What they do want is people to come join them to stand for the water at camp and to plan to be self-sufficient, but they will feed you as much as they can. Right now, what's happening with Line 3 is that we're waiting for the appeal decision on the Certificate of Need permit for Enbridge's Line 3 project in Minnesota. The decision was announced on Wednesday that it should arrive around 10 a.m. on Monday. This is going to be a big decision. I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about it or how I think it's going to go, but I definitely am, keeping my fingers crossed over here. In other news from the Treaty Peoples Gathering, there was a group of water protectors who had chained themselves to equipment, and it turns out a Los Angeles Times journalist named Alan Weissman was arrested while covering that. He was arrested, strip searched while covering the anti-pipeline protest in Minnesota. Minnesota's Hubbard County was who arrested them, and there was an article that came out that asked Hubbard County to explain their reasoning for detaining and strip searching a journalist and drop all charges against him. And that was what the Committee to Protect Journalists said today. Weiss also added that officers had initially refused to give him his medication while he was in detention, but eventually they did do so. When Weissman asked the sheriff's deputy why he was being released, they said he was released so that he could continue taking his medication on schedule, which just seems like a strange reason to release somebody, but I don't believe he should have been arrested in the first place.
Another fight on the media. I remember the lady at Standing Rock was arrested that does the radio show, that national radio show.
Yeah, it's definitely a dangerous time to be in journalism. There's been numerous accounts between the George Floyd protests and water protecting where journalists have been singled out or even in some cases attacked by police forces. So to all of my fellow journalist friends and to Mr. Kevin Aberesk, who we're going to have on later tonight, I hope you all stay safe in the process of your jobs. Moving on, the hashtag 215 movement just got bigger. The total is now up to 319. The Sioux Valley Dakota Nation in Manitoba is currently working to identify some students that were buried at the Brandon Indian Residential School.
Oh.
Researchers there found another 104 bodies on the residential school grounds, and they've identified 3 other possible burial sites in the area. There's only about a little more than 70 deaths indicated in the records for that school, and they found 104 bodies, and there's possibly others buried. Researchers from all over Canada are participating to conduct that investigation, and they're really hoping to identify the children and connect them, contact their families. There's really no timeline right now for when the project will be completed, but I don't know if you've seen this all over social media. A lot of Native people are, search all the grounds, and find our missing relatives, because there was hundreds, if not thousands, of children that were taken to residential school and just never came home. So my heart is breaking for yet another nation, and for all of our relatives who were in residential school. I think the other important thing to point out here too is that most people that are generally only about 2 generations away or 2 generations removed from residential schools. I myself had a grandmother that was in residential school in Red Lake Nation.
The last one closed in 1996, so that's 26 years ago.
Exactly. Yep. This is something that has been really ongoing. And we really need to, as Native people, keep fighting that narrative that this happened a long time ago, that, this is no longer relevant, because we are still very much so feeling the effects of this all over our communities. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up to everybody, which is news to me, I just found out, did you know this? If you have your tribal ID, you can visit state parks for free.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, and I think I could be a Canadian citizen too. Isn't that right?
I think dual citizenship is available to certain tribes. I think that where their territories would have crossed the Canadian border is my understanding. But I just found out that you just bring your tribal ID and you don't have to pay to go to state parks. So I was pretty excited about that because this is the first year in a long time I haven't had a state park sticker.
Yeah.
And I was very near to Itasca several times in the last couple of weeks. And I didn't go because I didn't have a state park sticker. I didn't know you could bring your tribal ID and get in.
I think that's new since COVID, to tell you the truth. But I could be wrong. So don't quote me on that. Maybe I should be on mute.
I won't quote you on that. It's okay. No problem. So, everybody, again, on the Stop Line 3, the big news is that the Certificate of Need permit for Enbridge's Line 3 project in Minnesota's decision is set to arrive around 10 a.m. on Monday. This is going to be something really, really big, and it may or may not change what's happening. My understanding is that Camp Firelight near the headwaters in northern Minnesota intends to stay until the pipeline is shut down, regardless of the decision. And if you are looking to go there to join them, make sure you look online for Coffee Pot Landing or LaSalle Recreation Area in northern Minnesota. It's just like within a mile of those two locations. So if you get to those places, you'll probably pass where they're going. It's pretty easy to spot, but once you get down there, there's no signal. So brace yourself for that.
Yeah, if you need your Facebook, brace yourself. One of the things too was I talked to Winona today, and she mentioned the fact too that there are 5 or 6 camps up there too. So we need to support all of them. We're talking about camps that we know specifically about with their needs and been plugged in, but there's also other camps up there.
Yes, yep. There's a camp in Palisade. There's one in Red Lake Nation, Red Lake Treaty Camp. There's several places right now where they are also willing to host people. So definitely get in touch with Rise Coalition if you're looking to come to Camp Firelight. And if you're looking to get into the other camps, you can contact Camp McGeezy, Red Lake Treaty Camp, and then I believe the Palisade Camp is handled by Honor the Earth. So they would be the group to look for information on where to go.
Well, again, really great news, bringing up a lot of great things that you don't hear on other stations across the country. And we want to give a shout out to Chicago and Madison, the Devil Radio, and AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, for carrying our voice as much as you do. So I just want to give a quick shout out to these progressive radio stations across Turtle Island that have Native Roots Radio on, and all the listeners. Keep the emails coming too. We really appreciate them. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and next up, managing editor at Indians.com, Kevin Aberask. We'll be right back.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The Department of Indian Work partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Now you can call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can also schedule a free COVID-19 vaccine at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. Appointments are available for residents 16 years of age and older. Vaccines are available to certain residents of Hennepin, Ramsey, Anoka, and Dakota counties. Call the Minnesota American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986 to find out when you can get your free COVID-19 vaccination. Appointments are available April 16th through June 19th. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
Over the past year and more, we've all missed out on a lot. Family time, graduations, weddings. And missing those events, we've missed out on even more. Friendships, connections, community, belonging. That's a long time to miss things this important. So don't miss on getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccines are now available throughout Hennepin County to anyone over the age of 16. Just visit takecarehennepin.org and sign up to get yours. That's takecarehennepin.org.
Hey, welcome back. Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice. Get involved at mn350.org.
Hey, I was hoping to hear that bumper, Jane Fonda bumper, that she listens to our show. And now I just want to give her a shout out real quick for being up in the deep north of Minnesota, really supporting Native issues as she's done for many, many, many years. Hey, we're here with Kevin Abarask, managing editor at Indians.com, and that's with a Z. And we really love this partnership because, one, I know we get a lot of our news because we have daily news from Indians.com and give them a shout out. But it's really exciting to have Kevin here. He's the manager editor. So, Kevin, what have you been working on? And welcome to Native Roots Radio.
Ogama, and thank you so much for the news update there. I sure appreciate that. I always learn things every time I listen to your news update, so thank you for that. It's been a busy week. It's that time of year, it seems like, when there's just breaking news practically every day, and we're just trying to keep up, quite honestly. Last weekend, we had our Bear Heels Walk. This is an annual event that we do in Omaha. A number of us from Lincoln and Omaha. This is in honor of a 29-year-old Kiowa and Rosebud Lakota man who was killed by Omaha police back in June of 2017. 4 officers tried to apprehend him and in the process tased him a dozen times, punched him in the head 13 times. And 2 officers took turns sitting on his back while he lay face down on the pavement with his hands zip-tied behind his back. A particularly tragic event, obviously, for all of us here in Nebraska, but certainly for Indian country. As we all know, Native people are more likely to be killed by police than any other population. And that's something I don't think a lot of people realize. And certainly we understand that now here in Nebraska. So ever since this happened back in 2017, we've been walking to pay homage to Zachary Bear Heels and, just so that people don't forget here. This is the 3rd memorial walk that we've done. And we try to follow the path that Zachary took when he was kicked off a bus in Omaha back in June of 2017. And it was about a 5-mile walk that he took on a day that reached nearly 100 degrees. He was having a mental health episode and, acting erratically and ended up at a convenience store. And that's where he encountered the 4 police officers who eventually took his life. No officers were ever held accountable for their actions, although all 4 were fired by the police chief at the time. But a jury acquitted 1, and a county attorney had dropped charges against the 2nd, who had charges brought against him. And 3 of the 4 officers are actually back on the Omaha police force. So a particularly scary development in that whole situation. We had the Bear Heels family with us during our walk this past weekend, his mother, Renita, and a number of his cousins and aunts and uncles. And it was really good to have them part of the ceremony. His mother brought the torn up clothing, bloodied clothing that the police had sent to her after this incident. And just to show people what had happened to her son. And we held a ceremony under a billboard, actually, that our group had erected last, I guess, would have been October in Omaha. And so we had that billboard put up again about a week ago, and we'll keep it up for about another 2 months. So it was a good event. We ended the event with a round dance, and that was really, really powerful. All the people who walked that 5 miles, and it was about 95 degrees this past Saturday in Omaha, and everybody who walked took part in that round dance, and that was especially powerful. So I was glad to be part of that. So, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, wow, I know living here in the Twin Cities, American Indian movement started because of all the police brutality, and you know, that was 1968, and we're still fighting that battle, Kevin.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we certainly are. And we need to continue to just educate people about, you know, how prevalent this problem is in Indian country. So this past Sunday, Leonard Kodog, Chief Leonard Kodog of the Sicangu Lakota Nation, passed away at the age of 78. He passed away on his reservation. As I'm sure many people know, Kodog was one of the spiritual leaders, if not the spiritual leader for the American Indian movement, and had taken part in the Trail of Broken Treaties, which included the occupation of the Bureau of Indian Affairs headquarters in Washington back in 1972. And he was also involved in and arrested as part of the 1973 occupation at Wounded Knee on the Pine Ridge Reservation. This was a pretty devastating blow, I think, to a lot of Lakota people and Native people all across the country, and non-Native people, you know, who had come to join the American Indian movement in its efforts over the years. I was able to interview a number of people who knew Chief Kodog, and was able to actually publish a statement from Leonard Peltier as well. Leonard Peltier, of course, was imprisoned after the 1975 shootout in Oglala, in which 2 FBI agents were killed. And Leonard is serving time now before that, and has been in prison pretty much since that event. He sent a statement to Indians.com saying that he met Leonard Kodog when he was, or when it, in the 1960s, I guess, when the two of them were at an event in Colorado together. And he said that he got to know Kodog really well, and Kodog's mother actually adopted Leonard Peltier to replace one of Leonard's brothers who had passed away a number of years before. That was something I hadn't realized had happened. He had a nice quote as well. Leonard said, quote, "I want everyone to know Leonard fought hard for our peoples and our treaties and our religious rights. He held perhaps thousands of ceremonies and brought back a lot of Native people to our religion. We will miss him, and I don't think he will ever be replaced." I also spoke to a man named Merle Anderson, a 45-year-old man living on the Rosebud Reservation, who is actually Dene himself, and got to know Leonard when Leonard led a Sundance near his home on the Navajo Reservation many years ago. And he shared a story about how Chief Kodog once showed him an image of his unborn daughter in a pool of water, and just how that really demonstrated, you know, how powerful Leonard Kodog's medicine really was. Merle said, quote, "The power that he had was great for the people. You had to be there to see how powerful he was." I also got to speak to Kodog's granddaughter, Jacinda Begay, who also talked about how powerful her grandfather was. And she shared a really interesting story with me about back in the days when the Lakota religion was still outlawed on the reservation, and how her grandfather and other elders would have to practice the Sundance and Sweat Lodge ceremonies in secret. They would have to post lookouts around their property just in case any Catholic priests came snooping around. And she talked about that time as a very scary time, you know, to be a Lakota person who was trying to practice the traditional ways. You know, Leonard Kodog, in his book, he talked a lot about, you know, how he was really protected as a child, and sort of isolated and kept out of the boarding schools, and taught these traditional ways in secret. And, you know, another thing that Leonard Peltier said was, of course, you know, which I quoted him saying, that Leonard brought a lot of people back to the Native religion. I thought that was an important thing to say, because, you know, people would come from all over the world to see Leonard. Celebrities, you know, Lou Diamond Phillips was one of them, Oliver Stone. Of course, John Trudell was a big friend and dancer, along with Chief Kodog. Chief Kodog believed that anybody who had the heart to practice the Lakota ceremony should be allowed to do so. And he based that belief on the medicine wheel, the colors, the 4 colors in the medicine wheel, and how those 4 colors, the black, the white, the red, and the yellow, all represented the different colors of men and women around the world, and how we needed to be welcoming to everybody who wanted to practice our ways. Of course, you know, that's a very controversial sort of opinion or position to take. So, But yeah, he certainly stood for that particular belief. So.
Wow. Hey, I got a quick story before we let you go. There was a person that told me that when I met Crow Dog a couple of years ago at Wounded Knee, he said that he accidentally touched his wife's stomach and said that they couldn't have kids. And he said that you're going to have a baby. And they've had 3 since. And that was Clyde Belcourt who told me that story. You know, just powerful medicine. I don't think we'll ever be able to replace Chief Crow Dog. We got like a minute left, Kevin. Can you give your information about your website and how we can stay plugged in with Indians.com?
Great, absolutely. So yeah, of course, our website is Indians.com. That's Indians with a Z. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Indians.com. We also have joined Clubhouse, which is an Apple app that really has become a really cool place to really talk about the work that we do. We do a 7 p.m. Central Standard Time news update each Friday. So if you can join us there, that's a really great place to learn about what we're working on and kind of the news of the week. So.
Yeah, I've been on that a couple times. That's a fabulous thing. I got to invite Ogama so she can listen in and join in too. Peeny Gigi, Kevin Aberask, thank you so much for stopping in, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow with some more, or next week with some more updates. Peeny Gigi, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and up next, State Senator Mary Kunesh. We'll be right back after this short break. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Connections Radio Show is all about tapping into our hardwired hunger to connect. We examine meaningful connections to ourselves, our community, and the world around us. By opening the door to innovative insights by a wide variety of interesting guests, we'll make the connections to something bigger than ourselves. Join me, Lori Fitz, your host of Connections Radio Show, and together we'll make the connections. Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Over the past year and more, we've all missed out on a lot. Family time, graduations, weddings. And missing those events, we've missed out on even more. Friendships, connections, community, belonging. That's a long time to miss things this important. So don't miss on getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccines are now available throughout Hennepin County to anyone over the age of 16. Just visit takecarehennepin.org and sign up to get yours. That's takecarehennepin.org.
COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, free, and approved for everyone over the age of 12. Getting vaccinated is the most powerful tool to keep ourselves and loved ones healthy and to end this pandemic. Get your vaccine and get back to what matters most to you. To learn more about scheduling a free appointment, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. Again, that website to schedule your free COVID-19 vaccine is ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
This is Santita Jackson, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I couldn't be more excited about starting our days together, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota.
The Department of Indian Work partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Now you can call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can also schedule a free COVID-19 vaccine at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. Appointments are available for residents 16 years of age and older. Vaccines are available to certain residents of Hennepin, Ramsey, Anoka, and Dakota counties. Call the Minnesota American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986 to find out when you can get your free COVID-19 vaccination. Appointments are available April 16th through June 19th. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening with a low of 64, then sunshine and a little cooler on Saturday with a high of 86. If you have a big home improvement project this summer, Snap Construction can help with roofing, siding, decks, windows, and so much more. Go with the pros AM 950 Trust. Call 612-333-SNAP or visit snapconstruction.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and thanks for that shout out, Jane Fonda. It was great to meet her, wasn't it, Ogama?
It was fantastic to meet Jane Fonda. It was really, really cool. I think that's probably the most famous person I've ever met in my life. And I just want to add in that this portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Yeah, Peony Gigi. Hey, so it's Friday, and it's kind of a fun day. We gave Wendy the day off. She's with her former co-workers having a little dinner, and I'll be joining them after the show. It's Friday, and we have State Senator Mary Kunesh on here, and we have a lot to catch up on, and it's always great to have her on. Welcome, Mary. How are you doing today?
How Matakiape? I am doing pretty well. It's a little bit cooler. I think it's now 85 degrees here, which is really about 15 degrees, 10, 15 degrees cooler than it has been in the past few days. So nice breeze coming through, and it's Friday.
Yeah, it is. We have these goofy politicians that are asking. I don't know if you caught that. There was one national politician asking. He wasn't even asking scientists. He was asking, I think, the park rangers to change the Earth rotation so we don't have global warming anymore.
I saw that. I thought, is that guy really for real? Is this was he serious? I have a feeling there are a lot of kids that could have answered that question very well. And I feel like the forestry person that he was asking was sort of dumbfounded. I don't even think she knew how to reply to that. But yeah, sometimes we get those kind of statements or questions or theories within our state legislature, and you just have to wonder, where did they miss it? Where did they miss their science lesson on our environment and that sort of thing? So.
Yeah, really. So this has been a crazy and exciting and sad week or so, Mary. Well, we have a lot to talk about. What's your thoughts? I think we'll back up a little bit. We did talk a little bit about the 215 children that were never brought back home. And I guess Ogama mentioned in the news today that they found another 100. Wasn't that right, Ogama?
Yeah, another 104 were found in Manitoba at the Brandon Indian Residential School.
So the hits just keep coming and coming, Mary.
Yeah, I think that we have opened a whole new chapter of understanding the history and the historical trauma, the generational trauma of our, not just the First Nation folks in Canada, but also here in the United States, there were plenty of Indian boarding schools here in America, in the United States, and they, the same practices were happening as up in Canada. And so that there are plenty of these old sites where the boarding schools were, and there are cemeteries, and there are cemeteries that have the students listed, might have a little gravestone, but then there are plenty of those that are unmarked and whose members never came back from the boarding school after being, either forcibly removed, or the family was told, you won't receive your commodities, you won't receive your supplies, we will withhold, we'll take all the children. And sometimes it was, absolutely the destruction of a family. So we're going to hear more and more of this, I'm quite certain.
I know we messaged back and forth a little bit before the show, and you mentioned something in that message that I really didn't put two and two together, but I think nowadays, because we talked about 1996 being the last time a residential school was open, which isn't that long ago, is 26 years ago. ICWA, the ICWA law. I mean, that was do you want to expand on that?
Sure. So ICWA, the ICWA law is the Indian Welfare, the Indian Child Welfare Act, ICWA. And this is a federal law or practice to protect the best interest of our children, because just as those children were removed and sent to boarding schools, they also removed those students and put them into foster care. And it continues to this day, not just in greater Minnesota or just in Minnesota, but across the country. And I'm trying to find a picture of a graph that I have from Minnesota that shows how our Native kids are still removed from our homes at higher rates than any other group of children. And I can't show you the graph, but per 1,000 children in foster care in 2018 here in Minnesota, 38.4% of all the children removed were Native American. But 89.3% of them continued to stay in the foster care service. And that compares to our African American children who are removed at 8.8. So Native American, 38.4, African American, 8.8, white, 3.1, our Latinx, 5.9. But those that continue to stay in the foster care who are not reunited with their kin or their family, 89.3 of our Native kids are not returned to their families. And that is compared to the next highest African American at 11.9. Wow. So ICWA was created within the federal government to protect the Native kids. Only problem is that a lot of judges, a lot of court systems, a lot of social workers don't understand the whole process of ICWA, and so they are continuing to be removed, and then families are caught in the jurisdiction of courts. Oftentimes they don't have the funds to hire a lawyer. Here in Minnesota, we do have ombudspersons. We have one American Indian ombudsperson she herself is a lawyer from Hawaii, Jill Esch, and she travels all over the state trying to intercept and work on behalf of the families to make sure that they aren't removed. But the tribes are supposed to have, a strong interaction with all of that, and it just isn't happening because, again, there just isn't enough education around that.
Well, everyone should see a blood memory, Sandy Whitehawk's movie. I had opportunity quite a few years ago when it first came out, I think about 3 years ago, to ask her the question, what can we do for these families? And without hesitation, and I know we've talked about this before, Mary, without hesitation, she said, instead of giving these people the money to have them in foster care, give it to the parents, give it to the mother. And I mean, that's as simple as it gets, right?
It's true. You know, we've heard stories from families. For example, a grandma had a couple of her children, just temporarily, of her grandchildren, and it was as the seasons were changing, and the kids got on the bus, and they didn't have a heavy duty warm jacket, and when they got to school, somebody noticed that, and instead of saying, hey, go in the office, we've got lots of jackets, or what can we do to help you, they actually called social service, and those kids were removed from their grandma's house because they didn't have enough jackets. Now, we know that kids often run out of the house without a jacket. White kids, Latino kids, African American kids do that all of the time, but it's like for the least amount of reason. So often it seems that our Native kids are removed, and some of that preventative action ahead of time would be so valuable, if it's because they're hungry, there isn't enough food, or the energy is turned off. Let's get them those resources so that they're successful within their family and stay within their family union, rather than removing them and then the family working hard to try to get everybody back together. I mean, imagine the trauma for those children. That's trauma you never get over. Imagine the trauma for the parents who, oftentimes because of issues that they can't control, maybe they just lost a job, whatever the case may be. So let's make sure that those resources are there. And luckily here in Minnesota and Minneapolis, we have the ICWA Law Center, which is just an incredibly valuable resource for our Native families. They do a lot of, they work on ICWA issues, family issues, but they also are like a site for families to come for resources and to connect with some of the supplies that they need and other support systems as well. And so we're working hard on these issues, but there are just so many roadblocks. Every time you turn around, there's something in your way.
Well, yeah, definitely. We got a couple more questions. We got only a minute left in this segment. Are you able to hold on for another quick segment?
Sure, be happy to.
Awesome. That's great. So we're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and Ogimaa is sitting in for Wendy. Ogimaa, I got like 40 seconds. Do you have a quick question that Mary can ponder on in the break?
Off the top of my head, I was wondering if she had any updates on the court battle for ICWA, if that's something. I believe it's in national court again. Have you heard about that?
Let's talk about that when we come back. She's shaking her head yes. All right, that's a good teaser, Ogimaa. Hey, again, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this quick break. Stay with us.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, thanks, Jane, for listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. And I'm here with State Senator Mary Kunesh of Minnesota. And Ogama, you had a quick story you wanted to share with us before we get back with Mary.
Sure. Yeah. The first thing I want to say is that this portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. Are we going to howl today?
Of course.
All right. Ow. You guys just going to make me howl by myself? Okay.
That was awkward. We might have to do that again. Do it again. Give it to us again.
Okay.
This portion.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Okay.
It's hard to howl coming out of this sad topic. But the quick story I wanted to tell is, as a Native person, I was told when I was a child that I had to be careful, if I got injured and we went to the emergency room for something, kids, they fall down, they get hurt. I was often sick as a child, so we were in the doctor a lot, but I was always taught to be careful about how I tell people how I got hurt, because it's easy for you to be taken away and put into foster care. And I am a mother now. My daughter is 8, and she really dislikes bandages, like adhesive bandages. She hates when we have to peel them off. So if she has an injury, we have to put a Band-Aid on or take it off. There's screaming involved. She does not want this Band-Aid. And I had to have that conversation with her, because here's me and my partner trying to convince her that it's okay. We're going to, just take this Band-Aid off and it's going to be okay. And she's screaming bloody murder, telling me to stop about this Band-Aid. And I had to tell her, you cannot scream like that. Our neighbors don't know what's going on. And if they call somebody, they could come take you away. And it's probably one of my biggest fears as an Indigenous mother, that somebody is going to make that call someday over something that is not what it really is. And that I may lose my child. And that's a very real reality that a lot of us live with.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Wow. Mary, that's a heavy statement, Ogama. Yeah, just pretty heavy. I want to shift gears a little bit here now, but thank you, Ogama, for that. That really puts things in perspective. I want to switch gears a bit, and we had some exciting news a couple days ago, and I want to that we've all shared, but I want to share this moment with you, Mary, about the Keystone Pipeline. Just totally awesome news, a victory for Indian country.
Absolutely. It's been going on forever. Really and truly, I'm not going to lie, I was quite surprised that they finally decided to throw in the towel and just, go home with the tail between their legs. And let's hope that is the case with our Line 3 issue here. But yeah, I'm just very, very pleased that that has happened. I'm still kind of disbelieving, and you think all the work that has gone into, first of all, resisting it, and all the time and energy and legal issues and sweat and tears that went into trying to prevent this from happening, and then all the work that Keystone did in order to ensure this to happen. What a waste of time and energy and resources. You think of the millions and probably billions of dollars that were spent on putting this pipeline together that could have gone to real communities, that could have gone to preventing all kinds of injustices across the world, especially environmental injustices, and now for what? Nothing. But I think it's a good message that's happening, that especially those that are coming into the United States, especially through our native lands, it's just not going to be allowed. And hopefully it sets that precedence for Line 3.
Yeah, really. We're going to find out. Ogama reported today that we're going to find out at 10:30 Monday morning about Line 3 if the PUC, if the lawsuit goes through, right, Ogama?
Yes, yes. So a lot of grassroots organizations appealed Enbridge's certificate of need for Line 3, and the decision on that is expected at 10 a.m. Monday morning. So we're all kind of on the edge of our seats about that, wondering how that's going to go.
And it's amazing. Every time one of these decisions come through, it's just a roller coaster, because sometimes we're successful and sometimes we're not. It's just such an uncanny and unreal kind of situation, because we just never know how it's going to go. And so we're keep our fingers crossed for sure.
Absolutely. And for me, it's kind of it was kind of shocking. I'm still not over it, really. And then we're going right into Line 3. So do you have any plans? I know your BIPOC or your people were thinking about going up and visiting some camps this week. I was talking to Winona LaDuke a little earlier before the show, and she was saying that you guys, they might need you soon to come up there, but right now we got to find out what's happening Monday, right?
Well, yeah, Monday is actually, Monday is a very important day in a lot of different ways, because not only are we going to hear that decision, but it is the first day of our special session back in the state legislature.
Oh, wow.
And so those of you who are listening in Minnesota, we're supposed to be a part-time legislature, only we never seem to be able to get our work done. We're the only split legislature in the nation. So our House of Representatives is majority Democrats, and the Senate is majority Republican, and we have a Democratic governor. So it's very hard to pass legislation. It has to be totally bipartisan support, and so inevitably we don't come to agreements by the time we are constitutionally forced to adjourn our legislative session in May. So we come back every month now, especially to allow the governor to continue the executive emergency orders, in order to also continue to receive federal dollars under that status. So we will be back on Monday to finish the work of the state legislature. We have to finish by the end of the month, and with a budget. We haven't completed a budget. And if that happens, hundreds and hundreds of our governmental state employees will be laid off, and we'll have a government shutdown, and nobody wants that. So not only is Monday a big day for Line 3 decisions, but it's also the day that we're coming back, and we will continue our legislative session. Some people will say at least through the week. So we've got a week of it, and others are saying probably until the end of the month, but nothing is ever for sure. And I know there's a lot of work behind the scenes to come up with some agreements.
Wow. Bless you. I mean, I've been in the chambers listening to the other side speak, and all I have to say is you have the patience of a saint, because I would be screaming and pulling my hair out every day. But that's why you're where you're at, and I'm here where I'm at.
Well, I've been a teacher for 25 years. You learn to, you know how it is. You just are like voices inside your head rather than saying things out loud.
And what's great too, and what I've learned through great politicians like you, is to meet people where they're at, and it's really important. I wanted to say, Peony Gigi, thank you so much for being on. As always, State Representative Mary Kunesh, thank you so much. And we're going to end the show right now. And I would like to end with these thoughts. Let me get the bumper music here and get dramatic with everybody. Here we go. Here we go. I'm going to end the show. I would like to end with these thoughts. If you've been listening to the show, you are part of the resistance. From Chief Plenty Coups, the ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to mask up. We need to resist, divest, join a group, and run for office. I want to say Peony Gigi to Kevin Abaras for being on, of course, Ogama, and State Senator Mary Kunesh. We're still here. We are the 7th generation. Free Leonard Peltier and stop line 3.
You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.